2015, an elite DFS Army Commando unit formed to bring high-level DFS strategy to the masses. Today, hated by DFS sharks and lineup sellers alike, they continue their quest to turn Joe into DFS pros.
Good morning, everybody. This is your DFS Army Daily Dispatch brought to you by DFSArmy.com. And I am your host today, BoomersDaddy. And joining me is the one, the only, the California native, the tanned brother himself, Mr. Bear here. How you doing today, Shy?
Hi, Keith. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, man. It's about 35 degrees in Oklahoma.
Nice.
Yesterday we had a sustained 25 to 35 mile an hour wind. Actually, no, it's 25 degrees. I'm sorry. So it went from 70 on Friday to 25 today. Yeah.
Wow.
It's Oklahoma. The only thing missing from the difference between Oklahoma and Colorado is the mountains and the snow.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the snow makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
We were about 70 degrees pretty much the entire weekend.
Yeah, it was great on Friday and Saturday, and then, yesterday it started getting colder, and it's supposed to be 50s and 60s the rest of the week. This is the coldest day it's going to be, so I just wish it would pick and stay. And if it's going to be under 30 degrees, at least snow. That's all we ask for. It's not a hard ask, is it?
No.
It's about as hard of an ask as determining if we can get a lock situation on whether or not Anthony Davis is going to for sure play. So, oh man. Speaking of basketball, did you catch a lot this weekend?
I caught a lot of Saturday. I certainly caught Friday. Didn't catch too much yesterday. I listened to some of the early games. Was at a memorial for the afternoon through the evening, so I didn't catch any of the late games at all.
Yeah, it's I was watching on Friday night. I didn't catch a lot because I was flipping back and forth between the Thunder game and the OU game. That was just unbelievable against West Virginia. So, and then Saturday, I caught a lot. Obviously, had to work a little bit. So, yesterday I kind of didn't watch any. I took in another type of basketball. I took in NBA 2K19. So.
Oh, nice.
Playing the story mode, the career mode, the my player, and got through the prelude yesterday. So now going to start. Just signed with the Thunder and going to go from there. So,
yeah.
Oh man, we got 7 games on the slate today. It's actually first Monday without at least 9 games this season. As Buddy Hield just got a new dog. So we're going to go through some of the injury news here. That way we can make sure that we don't miss anybody, and we can kind of go over a lot of the situations. The guys that are out, David Nwaba, Sam Decker, George Hill, all for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, Carmelo is not playing for the Rockets. Nene is out for the foreseeable future. DJ Wilson for Milwaukee, he kind of hasn't played all year, maybe one game. A big one that we're gonna be talking about is Jaylen Brown is out for the Boston Celtics. Pau Gasol is out for the San Antonio Spurs. One that just hit about 5-10 minutes ago. Draymond Green is out again for the Golden State Warriors. Alfonso McKinney for the Warriors as well, and then obviously Timothy Mozgov for the Orlando Magic. So it's a very, very light out schedule but there are some importance there. But the guys that we're going to have to pay attention to are this. Questionables: Chris Paul, Gerald Green, Dwight Howard, Ursan Ilyasova, Dante DiVincenzo, Domantas Sabonis, Donovan Mitchell, Miles Turner, Victor Oladipo. That's going to be huge. We're going to have to talk about that. And Damian Lee for the Golden State Warriors. The probables are Chandler Hutchinson, Gordon Hayward, Anthony Davis, Tony Parker, and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. And Terry Rozier is in. Just came out about 3 minutes ago as well. So, knowing that, we've obviously got some value that's opened up throughout the morning already. We're going to probably have a little bit more that opens up throughout the afternoon and into the evening leading up to lock. This would be a good time to remind everybody that early value usually tends to go underlooked later on in the day. The reason is because everybody likes that shiny new toy. They like to be able to pivot. As hectic as NBA is, we always like to say that we're busy. We like humans by nature like to seem like they're rushed and busy. So it's something that we can definitely take to our advantage. The big thing about this is obviously going to be that Utah Indiana game. We're going to have to probably try to dig a little bit deeper and play as much of the prediction game as possible, because I honestly don't think that we're going to know for sure exactly what's going to happen. It's a situation. We like this, but a lot of these value guys that we're going to talk about earlier today, like right now, they are probably going to go overlooked later on in the day, especially if a lot of news does come out before lock. So keep that in mind when you're making your builds. Just because new value has opened up does not mean that they're the best value that you can get. So as we get that, we've got an update on the Pacers. Sabonis and Turner are both playing.
And Oladipo is not.
And Oladipo is out. So glad we got some clarity on that one. That makes it a little bit better. Now, Utah Jazz, do your thing and let us know about Donovan Mitchell. All right. So position by position, we're going to go through this here. Obviously, we're going to start at the point guard. We're going to use Fanduel as the point of reference for positions, but we will talk about both DK and Fanduel as far as guys that we like and what sites specifically as well. Sound good?
Yep.
All right, let's start up at the top. John Wall versus the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to see what the status is of Chris Paul, of course. It'll be a determining factor on what to do with Wall. Wall going up against a rested Chris Paul is probably not something I'll do too much of. Chris Paul sits, I play a lot of Wall. It's very simple.
Yeah, especially at 9,300 on FanDuel. I firmly and 1,000% agree with everything you just said. That's pretty simple.
Easy enough.
Yep. And he's an even better play on DraftKings at 9K. But like you said, if Chris Paul is playing, then he's an easy X out.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about that. I mean, right now we've got everything set up as if Chris Paul's playing. As far as we know, there were some rumors out there that he was banged up a little bit, but he's older. He's always banged up. I'm not worried about that. As far as we know, it was more of a rest management type of thing. But we'll have to see what kind of breaks later on in the season or later on in the day and if he does play. So,
yeah.
All right, let's talk about a guy that is money's a great motivator, so much so that Kemba Walker looks like he's a different Kemba Walker this year than he ever has been. I don't want to put it all on he's playing for his contract, but I can say that he's probably that was probably one of his main motivators. He's actually increased his shooting percentage. I normally don't like guards that are really type of scoring dependent, but the fact that Kemba Walker is, outside of last game, which he still put up a huge, not a huge, but he still put up a decent point total. he hasn't broken that 50 mark since the Boston game, which I believe that went into overtime, did it not?
Don't remember.
I can't remember either. Had to have. He played 39 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe not, because he played 38 against OKC. So, but it looks like he's starting to slow down a little bit. He's going to give you the assists. He's going to give you about 6 to 8 assists. Doesn't really do anything else. So you're looking at scoring and assists as far as what you need to do.
Yeah.
Here's the problem: is Milwaukee's defense is very, very good, and where shooting guards have kind of started to get them over the last week or so, point guards have not really been going off. Now you could look at the quality of point guards that they've faced and, kind of said, okay, well, that makes a little bit more sense. But we've got some things kind of toying with us here, and this is going to be a major decision for me, because if Chris Paul's out, Kemba looks very, very, very ripe for the picking, because he's at home and we know that he plays so much better at home.
Yeah.
But going up against this Milwaukee Bucks defense, I'm not sure how much Kemba is too much Kemba.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the thing about Kemba is we know what he can do. And so I think for me, it's one of those where you can certainly play him in tournaments because of his ceiling. I think he's also going to garner a decent amount of ownership, I believe, as well, for 2 reasons. Number one, he's at home. Number two, the Bucks. I believe the Bucks are starting to kind of get known for not blowing out teams, so nobody's really worried about a blowout factor there. You're going to have John Wall. Assuming Chris Paul doesn't play, you're going to have John Wall garner a little bit more ownership than Kemba will. But I think he's going to be probably at around 20%, maybe even higher in tournaments because of what he's done this year. To whereas I would make a pivot to like Kyrie Irving or some of the other guys here we'll talk about. So the opportunities are certainly there for him, but I don't exactly shy away from Eric Bledsoe defensively. He's not a poor defender by any stretch. He's actually pretty solid. But he's not a guy that I'm not going to play a top-tier point guard because of. And so I think Kemba's got the ceiling. You mentioned he's at home. I have no problem playing with him, or playing him.
Okay. Yeah, I just pulled up ADVP, or not ADVP, real plus minus on the defensive side. It usually takes a month to come out. Eric Bledsoe is ranked number 3 among point guards. And that's more than Chris Paul. What's funny is Kyrie Irving's actually ranked number 5. But that just kind of goes to show you, like, I agree with you. I don't really worry about elite point guards when it comes to matchups like this, but I do think it limits his ceiling just a little bit, or at least has that potential to limit his ceiling. And with all the value and other guys that I want to play, I could possibly make the argument later on, depending on what comes out, on fading these top 2 point guards altogether and kind of going mid-tier to value and then paying up at other spots.
Yeah.
And hope that, Bledsoe just kind of maybe doesn't shut him down completely, but doesn't let him get to that tournament value that, we usually tend to look for out of these top-tier point guards.
Yeah.
So, let's move on to, I just mentioned him, Kyrie Irving. Okay, yeah. Going up against the Pelicans, it's the highest total of the day, or second highest total of the day, beyond that Charlotte-Milwaukee total. He's the cheapest of the 3, and he might be the one that I love the most.
He might be the best of the 3, yeah. Pace-up game is where he thrives, and one less offensive weapon there. Jaylen Brown being out, so he's going to have to do the scoring, and I'm going to have a lot of Kyrie, a lot.
Yep, I agree. He's probably going to be one of my core guys. It's not hard to see why, so I don't mind it at all. I think he's obviously a great play on both Fanduel and DraftKings tonight, so he's actually cheaper on DK at 8,700. Just assume that everybody's cheaper on DK, because that seems to be exactly, if we like him for Fanduel, then we like him for DK. That almost seems to be exactly what it is, because DK's pricing is so soft right now. So let's talk about Chris Paul. And he's going up against Washington. Obviously, great ADVP matchup. Coming off a day of rest, if he's in, and we hear word that it's not that he's been banged up or anything like that beyond, normal just wear and tear among the season. Can you see pairing up a Chris Paul with a James Harden, or are you just kind of fading that at the price tag?
The Harden part probably, but playing Chris Paul off of a day of rest is something that I frequent. All the time. So if he does play, I'm probably going to do like a Chris Paul and Kyrie for most of my builds. We'll talk about some of the value point guards coming up here for cash games, but the upside that this guy has versus the way Washington hasn't been able to defend really any position, particularly the point guard, though, is not something that I can pass on right now. So, for me, if he plays, it's going to be Kyrie and Chris Paul, and those are going to be my main two core tournament point guards.
Yep. What about Eric Bledsoe against Charlotte?
So they priced him up a little bit. It's another really good spot. I think he's certainly not going to have as much ownership as some of these other guys we talked about. He's kind of right there in that higher mid-tier, to where you might be forgotten about. So I like the tournament element there as well. I won't be able to play Bledsoe in cash games just because he's not a cash player. It's just so hit or miss.
Yeah, I agree. Jeff Teague?
I actually like Teague a lot. I've got a lot of Teague from my early builds going up against Sexton. It was good. It's a situation where he's not going to face much defense. My only concern with Teague is if a Derrick Rose starts to go off and gets hot, it takes away from Teague. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm scared of a little bit, because and there's no rhyme or reason to the games that Derrick Rose just gets hot. We could say that this could be a Derrick Rose game, but we're going to be talking about a lot of these Timberwolves, and we're going to be talking about this game a lot throughout the show, guys. So
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about one more guy above 6K here at the point guard position, and he's a if-or type of thing. Ricky Rubio. If Donovan Mitchell is in, I'm off. If he's out, I have interest.
I have some interest. I don't. I know that defensively, Collison is certainly more than capable, but in terms of so what format are you interested in? Both?
No, just tournament.
Just tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like his price tag on FanDuel, at least.
No, I don't.
Given where he's at, so I don't know. Maybe not for me.
Yeah, I don't like it in compared to other guys that are around his spot, but I don't think that he's going to be highly owned. Especially considering that we may or may not know the status of Donovan Mitchell before lock. And so I'm going to have to make a decision there, probably. But in the event that we do know, that's going to be the guy that's going to kind of sway it back and forth. So,
yeah.
Okay, Colin Sexton is somebody that I have a very, very difficult time kind of understanding. I know the offensive talent is there. He has the ability to score the basketball, but his shot's inconsistent. It depends on whether or not he can get to the hoop. And his jumper is not very good at this moment, but has the ability to dial in at any moment and get hot. The problem with Colin Sexton for me is that outside of like these are his assist totals in the last 10 games. 2, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 2, 3, 2. That's my point guard, guys.
Yeah.
He's like, we talk a lot about scoring dependent guys, but he's not somebody his rebound totals aren't very much more. If he's not scoring you, 25 to, raw points, he's not breaking 30. And very, very rare, like we have a 24-point game where he scored 29 DK points. I mean, he's a scoring option, but I think I'd just rather go other places than Colin Sexton. And if he's the guy that beats me, then oh well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, you look at like a DJ Augustine for 1,300 less. You even got Darren Collison, 900 less. You can even look at like a Quinn Cook going up against Orlando at home, playing 30 minutes for 400 less. I mean, there's other options. Sexton, to me, I don't really see him going over like a 35. It's kind of where he's capped. I mean, certainly he can break out and do more, but I played him the other night when he put up 30 or whatever it was, and he was super cheap. I think he was like 5K, and they priced him up. I don't know that you're going to see more than that from him. So yeah, I'm kind of off of it.
Yep, I would tend to agree. Let's talk about those point guards in Indiana, Darren Collison and Corey Joseph. Both going to be running about 26 to 28 minutes tonight. I haven't been able to peg which one's been right the whole time.
Yeah.
When I say Darren Collison, then Corey Joseph goes off. Because here's what's bad. They're pretty much the exact same player.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating. Yeah. I think I'm going to honestly pass tonight. I don't mind it if you feel like you can peg it. They're tournament only. I would recommend. But I would much rather go to like a DJ Augustine or a Ryan Arcidiacono or a Bryn Forbes or the guy that I am all over right now, Terry Rozier.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's going to be playing with Jaylen Brown out. He's going to be playing a lot of the backup too. He's just too cheap. He's too cheap for me.
Yeah, he's too cheap. He's going to be also very chalk. At that price. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. On Fanduel, on DK, you can pivot to Marcus Smart for a couple $100 more. At the same position. I think he's going to be just as chalky. But I like Rozier more as far as the upside. But, you can play with it a little bit. There's a lot of options down there. You've got Aaron Holiday, now that Victor Oladipo's out, that's going to be playing close to 25 minutes. He's $3,600 on DK. Aaron Holiday is $4,600 on FanDuel. So there's another guy that you can add in to kind of choose over the Corey Joseph and DJ Augustine guys. Or not DJ Augustine, Darren Collison. So that's just my opinion. Okay, so I flipped out a guy there that's going to play about 28 minutes for San Antonio against Chicago. What do you think about Bryn Forbes tonight?
He's certainly at a good price. He's certainly going up against the Bulls who don't play defense. I don't hate it. I don't think he's got tournament winning upside. I think you can, given that he's playing 30 minutes pretty consistently, you could probably plug him in some cash games if you need to pay down at the position. I don't hate it. What do we have him here projected to be 28 minutes? Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it. I don't know if I can play him in like I put it this way. I would rather play a Patty Mills in tournaments, who can get really hot and light it up, and has a higher ceiling for a little bit less.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can get behind there. So, guess I can get behind that. All right, let's move on to shooting guard here. James Harden, he's at the top against Washington. I don't see anybody stopping him tonight, except for James Harden.
Where are you right now?
Shooting guards.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Harden's. He's just the only guy that can really stop himself.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen him do that.
Yeah, more
lately.
than we probably should this year.
But at the same time, I mean, last game he was on a back-to-back, and had no Chris Paul, and he still did pretty well. But at his price range, you're hoping for, like a 60 if you can get that. So I mean, obviously his floor is solid, so that's fine. But there are just some other studs here that I'd like to pay up. I also think that in a at the shooting guard position, there's some guys that are significantly cheaper that I like maybe even more. So I'm okay with that. With not playing Harden. Yeah, if Chris Paul plays, then you just play Paul and you're good to go.
Yep. I like that. I think he's still got, tournament upside, obviously. And I think he's going to be the lower owned of the studs that we've got going tonight. But he's not like somebody I'm trying to force into my lineups tonight. And it's honestly not even close, to be completely, forthcoming here. So DeMar DeRozan against Chicago.
Yeah, for me that's the pivot off of Harden. I mean they priced him up, but look, man, DeMar he's been a monster. I've got some tournaments already where I'm pairing DeRozan and Aldridge even, just because they're playing the Bulls. I mean, you gotta love it. So I've even had some interest in ping pong and DeMar and Levine a little bit. So yeah, I think this game will also go underlooked because they're the Spurs again, like they've been pretty much all year. You're going to have a situation where, depending on Anthony Davis, you're going to have a lot of Drew Holiday chalk and same price DeRozan. You can pivot off of there. So yeah, I mean, I think DeRozan for me is probably my favorite shooting guard.
Okay, we can get behind that. Let's talk about Drew Holiday here. If AD is playing, are you playing him?
Probably not.
Donovan Mitchell is out. Thank you, Utah Jazz. Let's just go ahead and give it a round of applause. Just came out.
That just came in? Okay, good.
Yep. Okay, so if AD plays, you're not playing Drew Holiday.
If AD plays, yeah, probably not.
Okay, I would tend to agree with that. And it has nothing to do with the fact that AD is playing. It has everything to do with the fact that even though Jaylen Brown is out, he's going to be seeing a lot, and I'm talking about a ton of Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
So the only way I see this ending for Drew Holiday well at this elevated price tag is if he somehow gets Marcus Smart into foul trouble.
Yeah, and that's not something that I'm going to take a risk in, with my money. So.
Yep, absolutely not. So you mentioned Zach LaVine. I like the ping pong. That's the only situation I kind of like him in. Is a ping pong. Otherwise, I'm not going out of my way to kind of put him in a lineup without a couple Spurs or one or two Spurs in that, lineup as well. Yeah. Bradley Beal.
I like it a lot, man. I do. I like it a lot. I think he's going to go very low owned because of all the other guys we're talking about here. Kind of similar to Bledsoe, where he's a little bit more than Bledsoe, but he's in that lower high tier range at 8,200. Probably going to see some Eric Gordon and or James Harden defense, which is pretty much non-existent in terms of being concerned. It's going to be a pretty fast pace. I'm assuming Dwight Howard doesn't play. That'll make the pace even faster, more of a small ball game. At least on the Washington side, I know Capella will get plenty of minutes. I like the totals on that game. I like the fact that it's a 2.5 point spread in Houston's favor. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I like about that game. So, I'm going to try to get some exposure. If we're not playing Wall, I want to play Beal.
Yep, I would agree with that. Chris Middleton.
Chris Middleton, man, you talk about a guy that's going to be single digits that has 50-plus upside. I mean, I love Chris Middleton. The issue that I'm going to have is there's so many shooting guards here that I want to play. It's going to be really difficult. But, yeah, I mean, I love Middleton here. If you're not going to play Giannis, even more so.
Yeah, I don't mind the pairing with Giannis, although that's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But he's like you said, he's kind of in that weird price. He's going to be single digit owns because he's in that true mid tier range where he's not of the cheaper mid tier and he's not of the higher expensive types. I honestly think that a lot of people, they're not going to pay up at this position today. Like,
probably not, yeah.
So I think anybody above 7K is going to be really low owned, in my opinion. So it's just kind of one of those things. We're going to have some value now that we're going to talk about here in just a moment that I really do like because of the Donovan Mitchell injury. But why don't you fill me in on Klay Thompson here?
I mean, you mentioned, no Draymond. You mentioned no McKinney. You know that Steph Curry's still out. I mean, Klay Thompson is, with those guys out, he's got a pretty safe floor. And he's got that ability to lose his mind and go crazy versus a team that just played yesterday, albeit during the day, but it was still yesterday. In the Orlando Magic, who's, by the way, not a bad team. I know that they have a rap for being bad because they've been bad for so many years, but they're not a bad team. I've watched them play a lot this year. They're coached very
good,
well.
Man.
Yeah, they're playing well. They're coached very well. But I mean, Klay Thompson has that upside that we've seen that can just break a slate. So it's hard not to love him in tournaments.
Yeah, I don't think that he gets to that point because the spacing's so much different. They can kind of, not that the Magic are a good defensive team. I don't want that to get mixed up with anything I'm about to say. But when you don't have Steph on the floor, you don't have Draymond on the floor, and we've talked about this a lot. That's the ability for the defense to kind of key on other guys. And not that Klay and Durant can't go get their own shots, but with that said, I think that him breaking the slate is even, it's more likely, or it's less likely to happen than if one or both of Klay and Steph were on the floor.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, man, Andrew Wiggins. I don't know what to do with him. Great matchup. He has the ability to score the basketball, but going 0 for 12 the other night just was for a guy that's scoring dependent. I don't think I'm going to play Andrew Wiggins because I've got more interest in other Timberwolves tonight. I think I'm just going to have to own it. If he's the guy in this mid-range that beats me, out of these three guys that I really like, or out of these three that I'm about to say, then I'll just tip my hat to him because I think that Jeremy Lamb is the guy that I'm going to be playing here many times.
Same. Absolutely agree.
Evan Fournier against Golden State. He's going to probably go underlook in my opinion. He will see a lot of Klay Thompson, but he will also see a lot of other guys. He's a guy that can get hot. I think he's kind of priced at his max on Fanduel, but on DK where he's 5,300, I think I'm probably going to have a lot of him.
I mean, I don't hate it, right? I mean, he's, he's priced well. I think we all love the fact that it's a hammer game. I just, remember they did play last night. But yeah, he's got the upside. We've seen him do it all season. He's been playing really well for them as well. So I don't hate the play at all. I don't know if I love it, but I don't hate it.
I just think that at low ownership, he's a guy that, at least in tournaments, I could pivot off of Jeremy Lamb and go to him and have the ability to outscore Jeremy Lamb for $100 cheaper.
Yeah.
The way that I would lean, I think Jeremy Lamb is good for both cash and tournaments. But if I'm sitting there looking at something and I'm like, okay, I've got one guy that I've got to pivot off of, and it just happens to be between those two that I decide, then that's probably where I'm going to go. So it's just kind of one of those situations where, I mean, we've seen guys kind of pop off against the Warriors before, and it's definitely an option. Okay, so I had a guy that I was listed and I liked a little bit earlier, Malcolm Brogdon.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm reading that Dante DiVincenzo might be back. And so that might actually kind of nix my interest in Brogdon a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to look and find out, but it just seems like it could be one of those things that kind of eats into Brogdon's, maybe not minutes, but overall just kind of production.
So maybe, I mean, he's been out for quite a while, so I don't know that I would be that concerned. I mean, he'll probably, because they've been playing Sterling in his absence with the second unit, so he'll probably just take his minutes. I mean, Brogdon's a big part of what they do. I mean, it's not the splashy, sexy play that we like to play, but he does his job. He plays good defense. But
at 5,400,
yeah,
that's where I kind of,
I'm with you on that.
I mean, because we haven't even gotten to Eric Gordon is $300 cheaper, and then we're about to talk about these three value plays here real quick. That's just my only hang up on him is the price.
I hear you.
If he was around the 5K mark, I might have a little bit more interest.
Yeah.
So, all right, we gotta talk about him. Marcus Smart, Terrence Ross. They're $100 away from each other. They are, the way I've got it kind of listed right now is Marcus Smart in cash, Terrence Ross in tournaments, just because we've seen Ross go for 40 and we haven't yet really seen that out of Marcus Smart. Mm-hmm. We know where Marcus Smart's strengths and weaknesses are. I'm just worried that, I think a lot like we were talking about, like with Evan Fournier and Jeremy Lamb. I think this is, a 1v1 type of pivot that you can make as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually like Ross more than Smart. I think, the thing about Smart is he's going to be, going up against a really fast-paced team, but he certainly has some steals upside, but he's really got to have his shot falling to really, go off, and that's not something that he does very often. Whereas, like you said, Ross has been going off consistently. I think because of Jaylen Brown sitting, you're going to have a lot of the chalk over at Smart, to where for $100 more you go to Ross at a fraction, and I think he probably ends up outscoring him. So I'm all about, if I have a choice between those two in tournaments, I'm going Terrence Ross.
Okay. One more guy I want to talk about here. He's min price on Fanduel is Alec Burks. Now with Donovan Mitchell out, he's probably going to see close to 25 minutes.
Yeah.
He's not for the faint of heart, I will say that. But if you want to take shot on him going for 25 to 30 in the 22 minutes in this game because of the matchup and no Victor Oladipo, then by far he's an option. He's not the frontline option, but he is an option.
I mean, but at minimum price, it's hard to pass. I mean,
yes. No, it's easy to pass. It's just, the ability to do so much more for him being min price.
Yeah.
That's what is really, really intriguing about him for me on this aspect. So, yeah. All right, let's talk about small forwards here. Got to lead it off with the top two: Giannis Antetokounmpo and Kevin Durant. There's a $1,200 difference on Fanduel. There is a $700 difference on DK.
I mean, you're going to see the chalk head over to Durant. He's been putting up 50 consistently or more. He plays Orlando. He's at home. He's the hammer game. You're going to see all of the ownership head over to Durant. What does that mean? Well, that means that Giannis will see minimal ownership, and we've seen him put up the 70 plus. He just did. He just won our boy lose a ton of money. Tournaments, if there's any way you're able to stack the two of them, that would be incredible. Obviously, it's very difficult to do with those prices, but they're going to come within a few points of each other, man. I mean, they just are. So, and you've got Giannis at, 1,200 more. It's kind of tough, but it's hard not to play Durant in the matchup.
Yeah.
Really hard.
I'd agree. I mean, you can sit there and say Giannis is your, pay up to be contrarian. I don't think he's going to be highly owned at all. But yeah, if I had to say which one do I want more, especially in cash game builds today, it's probably Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Nikola Mirotic with AD in.
Probably not.
Okay.
I don't like the matchup. I don't like the price. I don't like the, the thing about it is with AD in, it actually opens up more for Mirotic, which I like in terms of open shots, but not the volume. And you really want the volume and the good matchup. And Boston's just not a good matchup.
Yeah, I'm probably off of Mirotic a little bit in this aspect. It's so funny. This is the second highest total, and the only real interest that we have is from the Boston side. As of right now. Right now. Yeah. Rudy Gay.
Great spot. I mean, really good spot. Priced very reasonably. Over 30 minutes versus Chicago. I mean, what's there not to love, man? He's probably going to be the second small forward in most of my cash builds.
I would probably agree with you. He's in my initial one right now. I do think that it's close between him and Gordon Hayward, depending on exactly what you want to do. You can't forget about Hayward on this Boston. I know there's a lot to love on this Boston Celtics team, considering who they're playing against. But I just want to throw this out there. Don't forget about Gordon Hayward. We've talked about it. Even though he's coming off the bench and playing, he's still playing over 30-plus minutes. And in that game against Atlanta, he looked really, really good until the game got out of hand, and then they called it an ankle injury. I'm not sure, so we'll have to pay attention to that. Yeah. But he's starting to be more aggressive coming off the bench, and I think it's only a matter of time before he's inserted into the starting lineup. So, C.D. Osman against Mini.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yep, with David Nwaba out, he is going to be a fantastic play again tonight. That he was starting to fall off a little bit, and then that matchup with his buddy LeBron kind of rejuvenized him a little bit. Since that matchup, he has put out a looking here. He put out another 20 points outing against Philly. Kind of slumped a little bit versus Houston, but he had a lot of PJ Tucker on him. So that's not the first. Cody Kessler, wow, that's not the first time that PJ Tucker has shut down somebody. So I don't mind it. Andrew Wiggins is not going to be able to. Anybody on this Minnesota team is not going to be able to really,
Yeah, I agree.
slow anybody from this Cavs team down. I
Sure.
mean, you got to be careful, Minnesota. You could go in here and legitimately lose tonight. So
Yeah, the way these guys have been playing, absolutely.
Yep. Rodney Hood, you can also add to that a little bit as well. And then my favorite play, probably at 6K on FanDuel, is Joe Ingles against the Indiana Pacers. Going to see a lot of Tyreek, no defense Evans. And then a lot of that guard combo that really is kind of just whoever's playing well is going to get playing the minutes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also pretty fond of Ingles. I don't think there's so much more offensive opportunity for him when Mitchell sits, and like you said, the matchup is just really tasty. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Yep. You taking a shot on Tyreek Evans tonight with no depot, or are you just going to stay away?
Nah,
Since
probably
we've seen what's kind of happened over the last time, and if he trolls us, he's going to troll us. So
pretty much that's where I stand.
I don't know. I don't have any interest in the lower guys.
So the only interest I have in the lower guys is only on FanDuel, where you have a drop the score option. You've got Nearman priced James Ennis versus Washington. I don't hate that at all. And then you've got, he's a little more expensive, but I like what he's been doing lately, especially against the Bulls here, and Dante Cunningham for tournaments. He's in a spot here where if ever to go off, it's here, and he has been. So I don't hate that either. But outside of that, I mean, there's not much else down here I like.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't even notice him until now. That shows you how much. Like, I just kind of glanced over the bottom part, and I'm like, David Bertans possibly, nah. And that's one of the reasons why I was kind of just looking over the Spurs. I thought about maybe like a Miles Bridges or a Jonathan Simmons, and I'm like, nah, it's just everything's so inconsistent down there.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I mean those two. I guess I could really start to see, especially if things kind of fall their way a little bit more, them getting a little bit more minutes. So, all right, power forward here, Anthony Davis. If he plays, obviously, I think he's going to, with the injury stuff, he's going to be at very very low ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's in play. Probably both of our favorite plays of the night at the position, LaMarcus Aldridge. Go ahead and talk to me about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple, right? He's 4K less than AD. He's going up against the Bulls, who have been torched at this position. Just for everyone, he's listed at power forward, but he's their center. So, look at the center numbers versus the power forward. I mean, they're both bad, but either way you look at it. But, we know he gets his 35 minutes no matter what. We also know that he has been a pretty bad letdown here recently. So it was a back-to-back, and he was just coming off a huge game. And I watched that game. He was struggling. I mean, he couldn't even hold on to the ball. I think it's a great spot here for him. I'm going to have a lot of Aldridge.
Yeah, I agree with you. So. He's in my cash games right now. Just kind of one of those things. Jason Tatum.
I've got a lot of Tatum, man. There's two guys here that I'm looking at as my second power forward if I'm paying up. The first one is Tatum. I think Tatum will have a lot more ownership, just given number one, given the matchup. Number two, given one less offensive threat out there in Jaylen Brown. The second guy I'm looking at here, matchup wise, is going to for tournaments is going to be in the Hammer game, and that's Aaron Gordon. He hasn't really had that massive game yet, at least not recently. What better spot versus an insanely fast-paced team without Draymond Green than to play Aaron Gordon? I'm going to have a lot of him in tournaments. I'm going to pair him with Aldridge in a lot of tournaments. I like it too much. Trying not to like it as much, but I can't seem to get off it.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. I don't like the fact that he has to get to the rim in order to have the big games. He's not what I would call a guy that could stretch the floor, even though he's called a stretch four. It's more of a, he has the ability, but it's not consistent enough.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that it's up and paced, obviously. I do like the fact that Orlando should be competitive in this game for a while.
Sure.
Maybe even deeper into the fourth quarter. But I honestly think that, let me look at one thing here real quick on his rebounding numbers. Because of the fact that, so his rebounding numbers they're really inconsistent. Like, if you get more than 6 to 7, you know he's going to put up 40. Obviously, those things add up pretty quick, but he's not a guy that, at least on DK, where even though I think he's a better play on DK because he's 7,100 compared to the 78 on FanDuel, he's more of like, it's kind of even because he's not going to give you that opportunity to get that double-double bonus. And I know that's not something that I really play into a lot. I like the price more there. So on FanDuel, I don't know. I'm having a hard time with the length of Golden State being able to see him get to the paint and drive as much as he needs to in order to give you the type of upside that you're kind of looking for.
Sure, I could see that.
At that price.
I could see that.
So, that's my only hesitation there. So, Domantas Sabonis, he's going to be in. He's 6,900 versus Utah. I don't know.
It's expensive, man, but they're going to need his size. They are. He's gonna play the minutes. He just had a game where he didn't. Did he play last game? He did play last game. He actually balled out last game. But he's probably your ownership pivot off of Tatum. Although obviously Tatum is in a fantastic spot, so it's hard to pivot off of him. But I'm fond.
Derek Favors. We go through this every single time that Utah plays.
Yeah. I don't hate. Well, so last game they started
Jay Crowder,
Crowder,
O'Neal,
and Royce O'Neal was because of Mitchell, right? So, but they just switched up the starting lineups with Favors in the second unit. And by the way, Favors still put up pretty good numbers. He just didn't play. He didn't play as much.
Yeah, he was. Well, his minutes took a little bit of a hit from
a little bit right.
a week ago, but it's not like he was really doing a lot with the minutes that he was getting anyways. So, yeah, I mean, we know that the 50-point game is coming.
Right.
But my gosh, like, this front court for the Jazz has not been what we expected it to be at the start of the season.
Yeah, you can say that again.
And we just keep going back to it. Okay, Larry Nance Jr. without David Nwaba.
Yeah, I mean, I need to look and make sure that he's going to play. I know there's no issues to be reported, but I watched last game and he took a pretty, I think he landed on someone's foot or something, and he was kind of limping off the court into the locker room, and so I got to make sure he's 100%. But Fee is lock and loaded. I love the play.
Yeah, I really do too. He's got the hustle, obviously, and we like playing guys that like to run up and down the court. So. That's always a good option there. Anything else on the mid tier to lower end?
Yes.
Go ahead.
You know who's not getting talked about at all? Marcus Morris.
Oh.
At all. I mean, he's just silent.
5,100 on FanDuel. He is... 5,200 on DK.
I mean, that's a steal.
Yeah.
And his usage goes up, and I mean, you're going to see everybody kind of flock over to Tatum, which I get it, they should. But I mean, Morris is going to play close to 30 minutes in a fast-paced game, to where he's, probably going to end up seeing some Nikola Mirotic.
Yeah, that's a matchup I'm not scared of.
To say the least.
Yeah, I mean, even if Dwight Howard's out, I kind of like him over his brother.
Yeah.
So, we doing anything with Dario?
I mean, I think he's in play now. I think he's been kind of rejuvenated there. I think he's, he's starting to be a ball player again, which he wasn't when he was in Minnesota there towards the end. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Jonas Jerebko now that AD or Draymond's out.
It's tough, man.
Oh gosh, this is another one of those situations where it's like, okay, Steve Kerr, let's spin the wheel, throw a dart, and see where it lands.
Yeah, pretty much, man. I mean, that's kind of been the situation there, and he's just, there's no rhyme or reason. It's tough for me to play him. I would rather pay a little more for like PJ Tucker, or something. I mean, it's hard to do.
Yeah, PJ Tucker is always going to be one of those guys that's going to be, an option of me looking at depending on the matchup and stuff, just because he's so cheap and he plays over 30 minutes. So,
yeah.
Anybody else that you have any interest in down here?
No, not really.
All right, let's move on to center. Okay, I'm not going to start at the top today.
Okay.
I kind of am, but I'm kind of not.
Okay.
Because I'm going to start with this game. It's looking like it's going to be Tristan Thompson chalk night.
Yeah.
So what can go wrong, right?
I mean, I've been playing him, as you know. I've been playing him, and it's been, he's been putting up 50 at like single-digit ownership. But I think that train may have fallen off the tracks, not because of him, but because of the ownership. So it's tough. I mean, there's a few centers here I like more. I think you can pivot, directly. Directly, actually lower than him with Al Horford if you need to. Who's going to have more opportunity as well now. I mean, so yeah. I mean, I don't mind playing Tristan in the cash because of the chalkiness. You kind of have to, but I gotta wait throughout the day to see kind of where all the chalk heads to at the center position. But it's It's a tough one.
Yeah, well, it definitely isn't headed to Julius Randle right now.
Right.
Who had a monster game the other night, obviously with AD out. I still think that Julius is fine. More on DK, obviously. He would be, if we were going to say, okay, who's going to be one of my DK only picks, Julius Randle would be there because he's a couple $100 cheaper. He's still going to play close to 30 minutes, and he does have 50-point upside. And, it's a tournament type of thing only, and it's a very low exposure type of tournament play. Like, if we expect him to be, say, 5% owned, then maybe you match it, maybe you go a little bit over, but he's definitely not part of the core because AD's back. So, yeah. Nikola Vucevic.
Guy's been on a tear, man. He's been on a tear. I mean,
yeah.
Here's the thing. He's coming off of a 70, fantasy point game. So people are going to take notice, and he's going to accordingly be owned pretty high. He's still only 9K. But who the hell's going to stop Vucevic? I mean, over there.
Kevon Looney. Damian Jones.
Right. Exactly. Those guys will guard him, but they ain't stopping him. So
yeah, I think a good pivot is Clint Capella on Fanduel, where he's $400 cheaper. I like the pairing up with Harden, obviously, always, and then if Chris Paul plays, you can obviously play him as well. So Karl Anthony Towns.
What we've seen from Cat is he's got slate breaking, upside. I think with some of the studs that we've talked about with, Giannis and Durant and Davis and Harden, and he's probably going to be the lower of them. He's not at that price range. He's at 10.8, but I would rather play Clint Capella because of the price, not because of the matchup. But
I would tend to agree with you there. Do you expect Dwight Howard to play?
I don't.
Okay. So that would obviously pivot us to Markieff Morris. It would also probably catapult Thomas Bryant into a starting role for a little bit. Don't fall into the Thomas Bryant being min price. He hasn't done anything with it usually, or at least this season. He's got potential. I just don't know if tonight's the matchup. I don't think he can keep up with Clint Capella. So,
yeah, I agree.
Okay. Cody Zeller.
He's really the only, second only pay down candidate. I've got a guy here near min price we'll talk about here in a minute, but I'm not a guy that plays Zeller. Maybe once all season. So it's going to be kind of tough for me to do, but he's there. That's about all I can say about him. He's there.
Yeah, I don't think this is the Cody Zeller slate. So, why don't you talk about about your guy?
So we've been talking about it all day that the Magic played yesterday. I think you're going to see, because of the length of the Warriors that you talked about, I think we might see a little bit more of Mo Bamba. Here's the thing about Mo Bamba. First of all, he's 3,600, right? So he's pretty much min-price. Secondly, if you look at what he's been able to do with his minutes,
it's unreal.
He doesn't go under 20. It's amazing. And a lot of that is, shot blocks and rebounds, and he hits his three-pointers now. I could see a legitimate 25 minutes for Bamba. At damn near min price is something that I like a lot of.
Yeah, we're talking tournament play. I need to classify this because I love the play. I love the thought process of it, and I think that we could also see close to 20 minutes from him as well. But we're talking like a deep tournament play. We're talking like he's a guy that you're not sticking in there just to stick in there in like a 3-man league or a 100-man league or
No.
We're talking like
Large field
tournament options, and I'd probably throw out there an after-hours slate type of play as well.
Sure.
So,
sure.
Yeah, I don't mind that either. So, do you think that Aaron Baines gets more run tonight with it being against AD and trying to body him up a little bit if AD plays?
I mean, it's quite possible. I mean, I don't see really who else on the team outside of Horford is going to really guard him. So yeah, it's quite possible.
I think it's probably going to be a combination of a bunch of people along with some double teams and stuff like that. But
sure.
I'm just sitting here looking, and if I'm looking at Mo Bamba, then I have to say the same thing about Aaron Baines as well.
Sure.
So don't have to worry about Kyle O'Quinn tonight. Yay! Yeah. So
yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Before we get out of here, I want to say congrats to our own Loosemeister. He on Saturday night, single bullet, tied for first in the shot or the rally, whatever it was, the $9 tournament for 70K, and also hit a WFBBC qualifier. So he will be going out to sunny California, where the rest of us will meet him and show him how to party like a rock star.
Yeah.
So, oh man, Bear, it's good to be back. It's going to be a nice little week. Pod schedule this week is going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Actually, we've got tomorrow too at 5 games. So
great.
We will be on 4 times this week. Gotta love it.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. For myself, for Bear, for the DFS Army, we gone.